Hello everybody, my name is Erik Teren Mullins, and today we're going to be checking out Good Smile Company's SSSS Gridman Universe's Rikka Takarada. Oh, and before I forget, I actually have an unboxing video to this figure, which you can always check out in the link in the description. She's a 1/7 wall figure. A wall figure. Figures that go on the wall. Made for the wall. The wall. This is quite a swing for Good Smile Company to make a figure like this. It's very ambitious, especially considering the fact that she's not made to really be taken off this whole wall apparatus. So basically she's forever on here, and if you attempt to try and take her off, odds are you're gonna break it, but we'll get into that as I go through the review. There is also the option to get a large acrylic plastic connecting piece for this to attach onto. It doesn't really fit in a standard detolf, and it's extremely tall, and would you just look at that price point? My goodness. It's almost half the price of the initial figure for a couple of pieces of transparent acrylic plastic. This is a hard pill to swallow, people. I didn't get it because I plan on putting her on my wall. However, when you live in an apartment such as I do, nailing holes through a wall isn't always the most efficient thing in the world, and it could get you into some troubles. Hence the ambitious. They really pigeonholed themselves by making something like this. Making her detachable would have really gone a long way. Her shoes are a cute brown, nicely sculpted. They're given a nice darker sole, and as it's a separate molded piece of plastic, her feet go in them perfectly. You can see that her right foot is not wearing the shoe completely, and it looks very natural. The socks themselves have lovely shading to their base lighter magenta-ish color, and her calves are quite sharp and well sculpted. As it goes up into this little band, which is painted on, we get a little bit of highlight on this. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible. From a shelf, any of the paint blemishes here aren't that noticeable. Where then the sock comes to its end, and this is directly connected within the same mold as her skin. This works. It's not like we got a bunch of paint runoff here either, but it's not as perfect as I might have liked it to be. I guess I just like when the socks really look like they're enveloping the feet just a little bit better. But again, from a shelf, this does look pretty good. Then we get into her nice, shapely legs. These are Rikka Thicc, I believe, is the term I'm going to use for this video. It is the most iconic factor of this character, and I would even go as far as saying that a lot of people have gravitated towards watching Gridman in the first place because of pictures that they've seen of this girl. The knees are well sculpted, not overly defined, they feel natural. But as we go around to the back calves, this is a little bit sharp. Either her calves are very muscly, which I guess they probably would be with... You know what? I'm not getting into this. Underneath her knees, we get a little bit of shading, which is lovely, and some nice sculpt work. The thighs themselves are Rikka Thicc, with each one being roughly the size of her big anime head. They look very soft. Easily forget all your worries as you just fall asleep on them. The sculpt work does a really great job at making them feel as though they have a nice weight to them, while as you look underneath, we get some nice shading and beveling due to the swing seat. Her skirt is so incredibly short that you could make the argument that, why wear one at all if your sweater's going to be just as long or longer? I guess it's just the principle of the matter. It has a couple of highlights on it here and there, but for the most part it's very simplistic, though we do have some nice jagged cuts in there for somewhat of a pleated look. It's not extremely well defined, but it doesn't have to be. Then we get into this long sleeveless sweater of hers. I'm fairly certain this is the school uniform from Gridman Universe. I'm not 100% sure. She's in 11th grade at this point, and it's pretty well sculpted. I'd say that the folds look really lovely as they squeeze down towards the center of her body because of the weight of her arm going through it. We have some lovely lined sculpt work going all along the edges to really give it that comfy sweater design. We get seam lines on each side of the sweater that follow nicely and bevel around the folds of it, similar to how a real sweater would be. While on her chest, we do get some nice folds and stretches in the fabric, as well as the logo for the school she attends. This logo kind of gives me McDonald's vibes. You're gonna have that colored orangey red with a yellow M on it. You're just inviting that kind of comparison. As we go to her back, it's nicely curved out to really give off her hunched, leaned expression, and we don't get a lot of folds in the fabric here because it's all being stretched out, and that's why we have so many towards the inside front of her sweater. The cutoff sleeves then have that nice molded line work that we get similar to on the bottom of the sweater, and everything really feels opened and baggy so that the shirt she's wearing underneath really does look as though she's wearing it, and it's not just sculpted on top or just plugged in there. It doesn't look weird, it looks right. The darker blue sleeves, they're very similar to the color of her hair. I think I would have liked to see a bit more shading, but I like how sharp the sculpt work is, as it does an excellent job at mimicking or making it feel like the artwork from Studio Trigger's animated film. Her left arm feels naturally, and I'm gonna use the term uncomfortably, stretched out and placed in between her thighs. And the only reason I say this is because of the scene of the film where she takes this pose isn't the most comfortable of situations. And I'm not saying it in a way that it's uncomfortable, I'm just saying anxious. Let's just say anxious. Positive, negative, take it as you want. For those of you that have seen the movie, you get it. And those of you that haven't, it's a pretty great film. You should go out and watch it right now. Her hand is extremely squeezed in there, but you can see they put the time into putting a little bit of personality with the fingers, and they did an extremely nice squished job here with the beveled in skin of her thigh and her hand just kind of like blending into it. We get a little bit of gloss for her nails, which is lovely because there's not enough gloss on this figure in my opinion. We're on her right arm, it's nicely folded as it goes up into a cute little scrunchie with a lovely little bird design on it. You can kind of see here that her hand doesn't necessarily go into that scrunchie perfectly, especially from the top. I would have liked that to be pushed in a bit more, or maybe the scrunchie should have been two pieces as opposed to removing the hand. However, according to the instructions, you are able to move this little hand here to reposition it when she's hanging. Her neck goes into her collar very well, and the collar is decently defined, though I would have preferred a bit more shading around here, just to make everything pop a little better, along with the ribbon that seems too simplistic. Maybe a bit of highlights or extra shading on this ribbon just to make it stick out a tiny bit more. I will say this, the line work along the front of her sweater is exceptionally well done. The neck and head are sculpted as one piece, and it looks terrific. Her ear that's showing looks cute, though I think I would have liked to see just a bit of hair coming down along the front of the ear. It's very rare when you have longer hair that you're perfectly shaven in front of the ear. Like usually there's a couple of strands there, so I would have liked that. Her face, however, is excellent. What a lovely face. It's so accurate to the film, and that's just flippin' awesome. They've given her quite rounded off strong cheekbones, an extremely pointy nose, but depending on how the light shines on it, it's terrific. Little red line work for the inside of the mouth, and personally, I would have put a bit of gloss for her lips. Why not? You know you have it. You used it for some of the nails on her. You should have absolutely put it on the lips. The eyes are very decalish, and I would have preferred, like always, to have the eyeball part be more of a gloss, while the eyelashes remain matte. We don't get that here. It's kind of a semi-gloss all around, but it does look good regardless. Her whole facial expression is just really cute. As for her hair, the only rough bad part is literally the line that goes all along the top, all along the sides, and it's so defining. It's frustrating. It almost looks like you could just pop her whole hair piece off here and change her head. You can't. She does not come with alternate faceplates, but it really seems like she could. That line. Ugh. The hair itself is quite a darkish blue, and then we get some highlights all across it. Personally, I would have preferred lighter anime shine here or there to make things just pop a little more. But the sculpt work is really great. It's just where the connecting seams are that it's not so great. Looking at her hair from the back and even on the sides, it looks like her, so there's not much to say there other than it's well done. She is, of course, sitting on this swing. Underneath the swing, we have these fake bolts and cutouts that make it seem like it's a real plastic swing. Very nice. However, we have the company logos under there. You could make the debate that all the company logos that are under there are the same things you'd see under a plastic swing in general, so I can't knock this too much. It's actually kind of funny how that works out. The sides of the swing then go up into these little plastic, yet painted in metallics, circular loops with fake bolts and everything. And here we go. Now we're about to get into this whole base of sorts. Her attachment doohickey. Shelving unit? Yeah, that works. Attaching to these little plastic loops are these metallic fixtures made to recreate the whole swing effect. And they're made out of real metal. They've got some weathered painting look on them to make it seem like they're a little rusty or they're just weathered, you know? They've been out, this thing's been sitting around outside for who knows how long. And in these ridiculously large instructions, you are advised to be careful because these metallic things can easily scratch the paint of your figure or just scratch your figure in general if you're not very careful. We get 6 of them going all the way up into more plastic circular fixtures. Boy, can't help but wonder if this is going to cause a problem in the future. Nah, small little plastic ring can hold up a bunch of metal and a very Rikka Thicc figure, no problem. For years to come, there won't be any issues, I'm sure of it. These plastic circles have a lovely blue little band around them, which then goes into these construction worker yellow attachment pieces. It almost feels like something you'd see in Evangelion, let alone an actual swing. And the plate that it goes into has a rotating base. Look at this. Woo, look at me go. Yeah, all right. So this thing can rotate full 360 degrees, and that's good, you know? You can always like move her around to face wherever it is you would want her to face. It's just, personally think there should have been something up here that maybe shows off the Gridman sky, the universe, the robotic grid that they have going on up there, or robotic buildings and fixtures that are in the anime and shows. That would have been cool. This is very basic and nothing. Like, this whole thing should have felt thematic instead of just looking like a neutral, boring, gray mini shelving unit. The shelving unit itself is a hollowed out plastic. It feels strong enough, though I personally don't think it's big enough. I know you could probably fit a Figma or something like that up on there, but I wanted to put my Akane, and Akane is, if I do that, I'm taking a huge risk. Not to mention the load capacity for this thing is supposed to be 0.5 grams. That's not bad. I'm curious if that includes the weight of Rikka as well. Rikka's thighs will net you a weight of 139 grams, but just to be on the safe side, let's add an extra 10 grams to this. That leaves you with about 350 grams in which you can put a figure or a plush or something on top of this. And even at that, I might go just a little bit under it. You don't want to risk a horrible accident. I want it all. A person can dream. A person can dream. It says that it should be used for gypsum walls. I know very little about what that is, but I'll show some picture, I guess. I'll have to check it out. I know nothing about construction. And then it mentions that you have to drill it into the wall with screws, yet you are not given screws for this thing. They give you these tiny little nails that look extremely specific to this figure and this whole mini shelving unit. If you break one of these, or you lose one, you may never get to use this thing again. I mean, that's not fair. I'm sure you could probably go online or walk into a hardware store with some of them and try and find a close equivalent, but they're made to go very specifically into these things, which are going to bolt into your wall, and then this is the thing that can kind of like snap into the pieces that are over here. Rikka cannot come off of this thing, and if you attempt to take her off in any way, she's going to break, or you're going to break something. The best option I can give for those of you that want to pose her, but don't necessarily want to put holes in your apartment wall, would be what I've got going on here. I built this little fixture out of Lego and it fits really well along the back. This works. Whether I want her facing this way or the other way, and there's nothing that says I can't build something out of Lego that feels like the Gridman universe that I love so much, and build it around this thing to hold it up and have her sitting along the front. That way, at least she'd look like she's in the digital world, the Gridman universe. Ooh, I guess you could kind of like sit her down at the end of a computer here or something, and then just have this like dangling off to the side. And if you really want to make it look spiffy, perhaps you could always make a little cutout that you printed out yourself of the Gridman universe, where there's little holes that you could like push your cardboard cutout, like just like I guess to like slide these through. So this way you'd have something nice behind here while you see her. It would end up being a much larger stand than usual, but if you have some acrylic risers at home in your display cabinets, you could always place one behind this, so this way you have the nice little Gridman design while she's sitting at the edge of whatever it is you might place her on, and then you could put the riser and have a figure on top. So At least you could kind of pull that off if you wanted to put it in maybe a display cabinet. I think that might work really well. This doesn't work. This is super risky. Like the slightest thing and this character is gonna come flying off. Nope, nope, nope. Oh my gosh. Look at the kink in here. The way that this is made is kind of frustrating because you have to be super careful. You don't want to break the plastic that's holding this metal together. It's so stressful. And I don't want, oh my gosh, it's right on her face. I have to be careful not to scratch her face, not to scratch any parts of her. And all of these need to be perfectly lined up. You can tell that they're not because she's on a crazy angle. Or maybe due to her Rikka thickness, she is supposed to be on this heavy angle. This does work pretty well for her. These instructions are crazy. There's so much going on here. We have a lot of, that's the right way to do it. That's the wrong way to do it. And it's just kind of overwhelming. So because of all this, I could definitely understand why this figure is something a lot of you would pass on, especially big fans of the Gridman universe film or just SSSS Gridman in general, and I get it. I get it. Upon her release, she was going for 12,727 yen. What an odd number. I can't help but wonder if it's any kind of reference to anything in particular, especially considering that Gridman anything always seems to be referencing something. It's just so many little things hidden in the detail, much like how Akane over here is very much so modeled off of Shattered Glass, Transformers Optimus Prime. Rikka's design and colors are really hitting those Shattered Glass Megatron. And it's awesome, and I love all the little references that we get all throughout the different animes and the shows, and there are so many figures because of this. I actually have the Good Smile Company's Akane Make a Wish Come True figure, and if you'd like to see the review to her, be sure to check out my link in the description. So many different options for everybody's different types of shelves, and you could find the kind of Rikka that you want or the Akane that you want. There's just so much available. At her price point, I'd say she's absolutely worth it. That's not that expensive for a figure that looks this nice, and it's definitely from a scene in the anime that was cute and fun. Not to mention that if you wanted to, you could just break her off of this thing, maybe glue these metal parts so that they're going straight upwards, and then have her resting on the side of your computer or maybe the side of something, just not necessarily having to deal with this. These are options that you can have, but you need to be very skilled and patient at doing something like that because you don't want to ruin your figure in the process. But with so many Rikka figures out there, is she worth going through all that hard work to do? Again, the concept is very cute, and I absolutely adore it. But even myself, living in a small apartment, I'm struggling with the idea of having to hammer in some holes to put these spiked little doohickeys over here, where it's just... it's also stressful doing that. What if in the process of putting it in, I break these, or she falls off? I just get unlucky, and one day she just falls off and breaks into tons of pieces. It's such a huge risk having a wall-mounted figure, and again, you know, Good Smile really gambled on making something like this. It's fun conceptually, it's just in practicality, it doesn't necessarily work. At least not for most people. Good Smile, you really took a huge swing with this figure. And though I applaud and appreciate seeing some unique, fun things like this, I have this sinking feeling that your sales aren't necessarily going to be as high as you would like them to be. Despite banking on how adorable Rikka is, you made it low cost because you didn't want to take too much of a risk. But at the same time, you didn't go the whole way so that major fans of the franchise would be willing to put in the same amount of risk and investment. So this feels almost like half measures, or at least dipping your toes into a pool that I'm not necessarily sure you're gonna go back into. But then again, who knows? And imagine you have all your details, and then you have a wall with different manga or figures, and then all of a sudden, this one lone miniature shelf that's got her, and I don't know, maybe like a plush on top of it, because Akane knows you don't want to take a chance and risk putting a figure that's ever so slightly too heavy on top of this, and then they bolt fall, and they both break. which would be a nightmare. So odd to recommend a figure like this, because I do think she's worth the yen that she's valued at. This is very cute, and it really looks like her. It's exceptionally well done at that price, so I think some of you are going to have to do some soul searching, and you'll definitely have to plan ahead of getting something that's so unique like this. If you like my video just a little bit, it doesn't cost much to instance a reaction that like. Subscribing will help surmount my powers to unbelievable heights. And be sure to hit that notification bell. This way you'll be notified if I make future videos in which maybe Rikka fell off the wall, and so did my Akane with her, and maybe I'll just lose it all one day in the future because I'm going to risk it all. Is Erik going to take this risk? Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Now we're going to get this statue fixed on my wall. First things first, don't lean on my TV. Secondly, as you can see, I'm smart. I'm a smart person, and I removed all my statues that were on my tablets. So this way I don't get knocked over, or there's not some crazy accident. Third, I'm wearing my construction attire. It's really hot. But I figure that's only the stress, because I'm about to make this and do this right now. So here we go. Oh, I'm not wearing any gloves. I should be fine. Just gotta be real accurate. Take it nice and slow. Hooah!
Sweet that they have angle ones. It's hard to tap on it without hanging this.
Now mid-game you might have noticed the hammers were switched. This is because of the fact that the nails that you're given have tiny little points of plastic on them as the heads, and you're also nailing them into a piece of plastic that are all angular, so you don't want to necessarily bust up or damage these things. So this kind of hammer with softer ends on them was the right choice that my wife made. I'd say she made most of the might say my wife made most of the right choices here. She also put some double-sided tape behind each one of these things to kind of help secure them while nailing them in on the weird angle in the first place. It was a lot of hard work supervising and making that video while she did all the real work, but I'm proud of myself. And honestly, it's just this kind of work really builds up a sweat, you know? We did a pretty good job, and now it's time for the moment of truth. Getting her on there. They actually give you 4 extra little doohickey nails over here, so if ever you kind of damage them or something like that, it's, at least you have some that are replaceable, which is nice. If ever you take this thing out, try and be careful taking it out to maybe save the nails too, if ever you want to nail it in somewhere else. Before just sliding her in, the back piece actually comes off here, and this thing just kind of goes on here like this. There we go. Just like that. Pretty simple enough. And then you just take her and you slide her on top of it. Nice and slow. Ta-da! And here we have Rikka in all her glory. And she's fully rotatable. Woo! Alright, let's see what she looks like with Akane on her. It's pretty good, but Akane does really hang off of this thing, and it is a little bit stressful. Let's try a couple of figures. Oh, this is almost perfect. That's pretty close. Let's try Rem with her slightly more intricate base. Ooh, that's pretty good too. Well, it looks like her foot is really hitting this thing. I'd have to put it on an angle. That's nice. And last but certainly not least, we're going to go with Snail Shell's Girl in the Box, because this is just such an obvious choice to put here. A perfect fit. All this fitting is some really hot, tiresome work. It's just so hot. I think it's because I've really been working out a sweat making this video. So, I'm gonna have to take a break. Thank you all for watching. And bye now.